Alright guys, today we're going to show you guys how to make a set of these trap setters for 330 and 220 conibears. Fairly straight, simple, pretty easy to make. You got two notches at the end there where you grab the springs to compress them. Got a bolt in the middle here to act as your scissor. That bolt is also tack welded so it doesn't come apart. Then you got your catch here for your lever with your pin, which locks it all together when you're set. And then you got two little holes here. We're missing a spring, but that's something we're going to add to this one and add to the new one that we do today. Then you got a bent bolt here just as your activator and your lever, and a small catch here. So we're gonna measure it all up, start right from scratch, and make a set today, and we'll go from there. So these are made out of 1.25" flat bar. So I don't know if you can see that there. It's 1.25" by quarter flat bar. You could just go to any metal shop or welding shop and pick some of this up. It's I would go with hot rolled instead of cold roll, just because hot roll is typically cheaper than cold roll material. And yeah, so this is what we're gonna do. So this is a set I made quite a few years ago, and again, when I made it I was in a rush, but they turned out pretty good. So to start, we got to measure out our material first and see what type of length we need here. So I marked out the material. We're going to measure from the end here down to, I don't know if you can see that black mark there I put with a marker. So that's where our bend is. Our bend is exactly at 16 inches. And then from there, from our bend to the end, we got another 10 inches there. So our overall length is going to be 26 inches overall for our material. And then we're going to cut our two pieces, and then we'll go from there. I don't know if you can see that there, but that piece we got there is 3 inches. So we're going to cut another little piece of flat bar for our latch at 3 inches long. Alright, so we got our pieces cut. So again, you need two pieces at 26 long, and then you're going to need one piece of flat bar at 3 inches long. So now our next thing to do is to mill our notches at the end here. These two notches at the end, so we're going to lay those out. Then we're going to lay out the center hole, and then at the same time we're just going to lay out all the other holes. We're going to do all our drilling first on your flat bar, and then you bend your angles on after. Makes it a lot easier to handle the flat bar and put in the vise when they're straight. So again, we'll do the bending afterwards. So the notches on the end are 3/8. I don't know if you can see my dial there, 375 thou. So again, we're going to use a 3/8 end mill to do this. This is the milling machine I got in my shop right now. I'm going to use the milling machine, but again, this can be done with a manual drill and drill bit. So what you would do is you would lay out your hole here at the end, and then all you do is use a grinder with a cut-off disc and make your slots in, and you'll accomplish the same thing that I'm going to do on the mill there. So after that, we're going to lay out the holes. Again, this bolt that I have here right now is a 3/8 bolt, so we're probably going to drill a 3/8 hole there, and then all my other bolts at the end here are 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch bolt there as well, and that's what I used there as well. So we're going to drill those 3 holes 1/4 inch. So let's start laying out our material. So my notch here, if you look at the end here, you're looking at, it's worn now, but when I first made it, it's probably 1/4 inch in. So you want at least a 1/4 inch of material there, so that it, as it wears, it'll last you for a few years. You can see it's already worn a bit there. It's worn about almost 20 thou from when I originally made it. But a 1/4 inch there, so you're going to want to go a 1/4 inch and then plus half of 3/8, which is 3/16 to the center, and that's where we're going to lay that out. So there it goes. So 1/4 inch plus half of 3/16, I mean 3/8, which is 3/16, is going to give us 7/16 to the center. So that is 437.5. So we're going to lay that out. All I do is going to scribe it with our vernier. Not working out so good, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab some bluing and spray some bluing on our flat bar, and that should help us out here. Okay, so you can see there we sprayed a little bit of bluing on the end of our flat bars. Let her dry a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but it's leaving a faint line, which is just enough for a layout. Now once you got that, we got to take the measurement of how far in we're going. And again, we're going from the end there to the end there. We're going about 9/16. So again, it's worn from when I originally done it. So we're going to go in 9/16 overall. And we're going to lay that out as well. 9/16. So that's where our slot's going to end. Mark that one out as well. And again, that's nothing critical here. I mean, you can make them a little less, make them a little more. I find this has been working out good for me, so I'm going to stick with the same pattern. Now to measure our hole for our scissor itself, I got about, it's actually looking at about 7 and 5/8. So we're going to do the same. You can go 7 1/2, 7 5/8. So we're going to lay ours out at 7 5/8. Again, we're just going to throw a little bit of bluing roughly in that right area. 7 5/8 is going to be roughly right there. Put some bluing on that. So we're going to have 7 5/8, which is going to be right there. And 7 5/8 on our second piece. We didn't glue quite in the right spot. Let's do that over again. And our 7 5/8. Then you're going to want to find the center of your flat bar. So since we got 1 1/4 flat bar, you're looking at 5/8 to the center. Then what you could do, because flat bar is, it's not that critical, but flat bar is never really, it's not a machine, so it could be a little bit bigger, a little smaller. You can mark it from both sides, then you will find your true center, which will be between the two lines. And you're going to want to grab a center punch, and we're going to center punch those. And again, it's just so it'll be easier to see later on, and be easier to start our hole. Our center punches here. A nice set of center punches and our small hammer. Now, I'm having a hard time doing all this while I'm holding the camera here, but let's see. I'm gonna center punch this, then I'll show you guys what I've done here. All right, so I center punched our center holes where our 3/8 bolt is gonna go, and that's gonna make our scissor. And then I center punched our line at the end, right? So it'll be easier for me when I mill it. It'll be a lot easier to see than the faint lines in the bluing. So the first center punch means I start over here, and the last one is where my cut actually ends. So now we're gonna put the other pin. So the locking pin, this one looks like it's at 15 3/8. So that's gonna be on the one with this cut facing in. So again, that's going to be this piece here, which is going to be our top piece. So we're going to lay that one out at 15. And again, it looks off center. I have a quick peek here, which I think it is. Yeah, so it's actually off center. You're going to want to drill it 1/2 inch in from the far end. So I'm going to throw some bluing on this again, and then I'm going to show you how we lay that. All right, so now you're going to want to scribe your 15 3/8, which is right there. And again, you're going to want to be 1/2 inch in from that one side, which is right there. Now I'm going to center punch that, and there you go. That's where that one's going to go. Now we're going to measure down the opposite side for the other one, and again, it's 15 3/8, and then our last one is going to be at 16 3/8. So we're going to lay these out. You're going to want to scribe a mark at 15 3/8. And at 16 3/8. And again, this is nothing critical as long as you're close in the vicinity. I mean, the scissor's going to work. This is not something precise that we're building here. Now again, you can see this pin here to the center. The far pin, the one that's at 16 3/8. Looks like it's 1/4 inch in. So that's going to be from the far side. That's from your second piece, so it'll be from the inside here. We're going to lay that out with that. And then this one will be a little harder to see because of the weld, and we still have it assembled. But from what I can tell here, taking a quick measurement, to me it looks like it's gonna be, so it's actually 3/8 in. So the 15 3/8 is 3/8 in from the end here, which is 375. Now I'm going to lay out those two holes, center punch them, and then I'll show you what I got. So there you have it. We got our two flat bars all laid out. That's the first one, and our second one on top. So again, now we got to mill the two slots, drill the two 3/8 holes, and then drill our 3/4 inch holes down at this end. Once we get that done, then we'll bend our flat bar so that we get the same angle as what we got going on here, and then we'll assemble them, and after that we'll do our latching system. So again, this is nothing critical, so what we're going to do here is typically if it's something that's going to be critical, I usually use a center drill to start my hole, but again, nothing critical going on here, so we're just going to roughly adjust so it looks like we're on our center. A little more. A little more. That looks pretty good. So again, if you got what I'm doing, I don't have any coolant on my little mill I got here, mill drill press. So what I was doing there is called peck drilling. When you peck drill like that, you don't burn out the end of your drill bit. If you keep steady pressure on there, you're going to start getting those real dark chips, and you're just going to burn out your drill bit. So remind people that if you don't have coolant on your drill press, peck drilling is the way to go. We're going to set up the second one, drill our second 3/8 hole, and after that we're going to drill our 1/4 inch holes. So again, got the second one, drill our hole. So now we switched it out. I took the 3/8 drill bit out and we put a 1/4 inch drill bit in. We're going to drill our two 1/4 inch holes on our first piece. There's our first hole. Move over, drill our second hole. See how close we are here. Gotta go back some. Again, it's a little bit more difficult because I'm holding the camera today. Again, it's nothing really critical. This is not something that has to be precise. There we go, we got holes. We'll swap out the flat bar and drill our last 1/4 inch hole. There we go. Last hole, 1/4 inch. There we go. Now we just got to mill our two slots at the end. What I think I'm going to do is use the small drill mill press here that I have instead of setting up the big drill press. The big mill. On my big mill over here, I got a dividing head already set up, and I'd have to set up a vise and everything. As for this one here, is all set up with a vise, so we're just, again, because it's nothing critical, we're just going to put an end mill in the chuck, and we're going to mill our slots. Got an end mill that's in the chuck. We got it lined up with our line, center, and then we're going to mill in to about our last dot there, so here we go. Table. We're using a small mill here, so I'm going to take it in a couple of cuts. Disappears. We'll take a bigger cut. We got the one mill. So the second one's pretty much the same thing. I'm going to mill the second one, and then I'll turn this back on and then continue from there. Alright guys, so this is where we're at now. We got our ends milled, 3/8 holes drilled, and our 1/4 holes drilled. Our next step is going to be measuring out our 16 inches and putting a bend in our flat bars. All right, so our next step is making our bend. So what we can do to get roughly the same bend is measure your offset, right? So we put a straight edge up along the other one, measure at the end here, got a 3-inch offset is what we fell, because I'm doing everything. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a 3-inch offset that you want at the end. So here, once we got it bent, now again, you got to pay attention, right? See the way your slot is? The slot's facing out. You got to bend towards your slot, the same way your slot is. Now, if you bend the handle the other way, it's not going to work for you. Now, even that one, the slot's facing out, and the bend is going out. So make sure you bend it on the right side here. Now we're going to heat it up. We got some welding gloves here. Make sure you're always wearing the proper PPE when you're doing any of this stuff. We don't want anybody getting hurt or burnt. All right, so I set up the phone here. So I'm going to need both hands to be able to do this. We're going to bend our first piece to a 3-inch offset. Just going to start up the torch here. All right, we're going to see and measure that up, see if we got the proper offset. Actually, probably 2 7/8. Again, nothing major critical. I'm going to say that one's good. We're going to set up and we're going to bend our second piece. Again, make sure you got some welding gloves. This piece is going to be warm now. You might want to throw it outside or cool it off in the water somewhere. Make sure you don't forget and grab that. End up burning your hand. So this one's going to have to be bent the opposite way. Again, the way your notch is. So my notch is coming in from this side. That means I'm going to have to pull over to this side here towards the notch to get my offset. going to want to make sure you're not pushing up or down on your piece, and that you're only pushing over. And looking at this one, we got ourselves 3-inch offset. Now, I haven't done these in a while. So what I just noticed, to take a look at that last hole, 1/4-inch hole, we're gonna have to re-drill that. That's the only hole I think that should be drilled at the end. I didn't realize the bend would be right there. So again, we're gonna peen where it came up there, and then we're gonna re-drill that 1/4-inch hole, and then we should be good to go. All right there, folks. There's our 2 pieces. 1 and 1. I went and re-drilled that 1/4-inch hole. We're all good to go now. So they're gonna end up going like so. We're gonna go get our 3/8 bolt, put it through there, and we're about 3/4 of the way there. Let's go see if we can't find a bolt in place. Here's a couple beavers that we caught recently. A couple nice sizes. My phone's dying slowly here, so I'm gonna have to go recharge. All right, got a charging phone cord on my phone here. So this is where we're at. We got ourselves a 3/8 bolt. We're gonna slide this one on, like so. And we're gonna slide this one on, like that. Put our nut on. Again, you don't want it too tight. You'll be able to move it. We're gonna tack weld that nut on there. And this is what we got so far. Coming along. Our notches line up, which is good. And then I got some 1/4-inch bolts here. So one's gonna go through here. We're gonna weld the back of these bolts as well. So one just slides up through there. And that'll be our one latch over there. I think this one will be long enough. Yeah, that one will be long enough. We'll have to make our tab for this one. Again, we're having a few technical difficulties trying to do everything. Hold it up, show you guys what I'm doing, and all at the same time here. That one's gonna go there. And then the long one, which we're gonna cut the top off, will go in there. And that's what we got right there. It's coming along good. Again, I drilled mine 1/4-inch. If your drill bit is a new drill bit and is sharpened properly, drill bit always drills oversized, so you don't really have to go the next size up for your bolt holes. This I drilled 3/8. The 3/8 bolt fits no problem. Again, if your drill bits are drilling undersize, they're probably not sharpened properly or they're worn out. Now we just got to do our latch, make our latch piece here. So that'll be our next step. We'll get set up. I don't think I'm going to weld anything yet. We're probably going to do all our welding at the end, because we're going to have to weld this bolt here that's bent to our tab that we're making here, our locking tab. And then we'll have to find some springs, and then we'll be good to go. Cut. All right, there's a small piece we cut for our tab. It's a little wide. We're gonna have to mill this down or cut her down. So again, if you're looking here, this one is only 3/4. Let's see if you guys can see that. 3/4 of an inch. So we're gonna lock our vernier at 3/4. And we're gonna scribe a line. Again, this is typically a lot easier when you're using two hands, but again, it's nothing critical. So I don't know if you can see my line there. So I got my 3/4 inch line scribed. We're gonna have to mill this angle, or cut that angle on there, and then we're gonna have to mill our slot. But what we're gonna do first, before we mill our slot, we're gonna drill this hole in our tab here, and then we're gonna locate it on this one to see if our tab or our slot on this tab is gonna end up at the same spot. You don't just wanna use this one because this is a new one. And since your hole's already in here, we're gonna bolt our tab on, then we're gonna close it to where we want, where it's roughly the same when it locks in. All right, so now we're gonna lay out this far hole. Again, it's a 1/4 inch hole, and it's looking like I put it at about 300 thousandths of an inch. So again, it's nothing really critical. I'm just gonna scribe a line. You can make it 1/4 inch, you can make it 375, 3/8. That doesn't matter, and it's center of this piece. So if I got 3/4, half of that is 3/8. So this would be 375. That ends up about half. So we're gonna scribe that there. And X marks the spot for our hole. Now I'm gonna center punch that bear. There you go. So this center punch right here is for my hole. The other ones, again, is just because a lot of times the bluing comes off when you're machining or cutting something. So if you center punch your line and stay center of your center punch, you know you're on the line and you're cutting it to the right size. Now we're gonna set up to mill this down and drill our hole. 1/4 inch hole. So again, that's gonna be a 1/4 inch hole because we put a 1/4 inch bolt in there, right? So we're gonna just set that up and meet you guys at the drill press. All right, so we're back at the drill press here. Lined up my drill bit for my 1/4 inch hole. We got our 1/4 inch hole drilled. Now we're going to set up to mill that across. All right, so to set this up, make sure you stay on your line and you're straight. All you're going to do is grab a small level and make sure your piece is level. We're off just a bit. I'm going to loosen this, see if we can't get a little bit better. Just going to tap this corner down. There we go. Lock that in there. And again, it's nothing critical, so we're just going to mill it. We'll put an end mill in the chuck again. Going to mill across, and again, use what you got. You can do this with a hacksaw, which would take a lot longer, or again with a cutting disc on a grinder. So here we go. Okay, so this is where we're at. We milled our piece. Our piece is now the right length and the right width. Now we're going to measure our angle. So what do we got over here? We got, I will say 1/4 inch. So we're going to make a little mark on top of this one at 1/4 inch. Again, be a lot easier with 2 hands. And then how far down did we go with that angle? I don't know if you can see what I'm measuring there, but I think we went 3/4 on that. So that'd be, then you're gonna mark yours 3/4 over here. And then what we do is we grab a scale or straight edge. So in my case here, I got a scale. You're gonna put your scale at 3/4 and the 1/4 inch mark on an angle like that, and then you scribe right along from one mark to the other. And I don't know if you can see that, it's very faint, but I'm gonna lay that out with some center punch marks. So bear with me a second. There, now you can see it better. There's our angle. Now we're going to mount this over here on our bolt. And then we're going to want to make sure that this one is locked in. And see what kind of gap you got here at the end? See how they're overlapped? That's what we want on this one. So we got to make sure this one is, again, is overlapped. Roughly the same. That looks a little more. Again, you can take a measurement, but this is nothing critical, right? As long as you can lock your safeties on your springs, that's all that matters. And then from there, that's where that ends up. So now I can mark with a marker, probably easier, so everyone can see where that ends up. So now I'm going to want to go just like that. So if I take out the black spot, see that? That should be it for my lock. Now we're going to cut that angle. We're going to mill that, and we're also going to mill the angle here. There's a small angle that goes here. If you look at this one, because where that bolt here welds on, so that was cut on a bit of an angle there. So we're going to go to the mill. We're going to do all that. And after that, I think all we got left to do is welding and find some springs. So again, nothing critical here. So I just eyeballed my line across the top of my vise right here. But what you could actually do is measure with a scale from here to your first dot, and at this end, like that, you know you're square. But again, like this angle really doesn't matter. See my black mark at the end there for that second angle? Again, nothing really critical. You see me always milling from mostly this side, the other cutting from the other side. But typically you always want to mill against your solid jaw, right? Since this is a movable jaw, this is my solid jaw, you always want your piece spinning and you're milling with the pressure against your solid jaw. Now all we got to do is mill that one slot for our locking tab. A locking 1/4 inch bolt and deburr everything and then try it out. Alright, so now we're setting up for our slot. Now because this is, there's going to be a lot of pressure, right? So when you're closing this, you're closing those magnum springs. You want it to lock in there fairly easy. So instead of using a 1/4 inch end mill, I'm going 5/16, so there's a little bit of clearance so the tab falls onto the bolt a little easier. You can see we're pretty well lined up. Have my table shifted on me there. Always got to be careful of that. Always make sure the lock is working. Alright, let's see how this works here. Drop her on there. And there we go. Fits like a glove. And we got overlap. So now all we got left to do is we got to weld our bolts in. Tack our nut. Weld a spacer down here. See, I don't know if you could see that. You need a spacer down here. So it could be washers, it could be just a bigger nut that fits on there. That'll give you the right spacing. You're going to want it up a little bit so it's not rubbing. Right, so you're going to want some clearance. And then we're going to cut this here, top of this bolt. because that's just for that latch there. And then we got to bend our bolt, drill 2 small holes, put a spring in there, and we are done. So I'm gonna go and grab a bolt so that we can do this, and grab a spacer and grab a nut. All right, so if you can see down here, I went and I got a 7/16 nut right there. That actually fits over the bolt and gives us some clearance. I don't know if you can see the daylight there. So that'll move it freely. So 7/16 nut is perfect for a spacer down here. And then for our top nut here, I always like to get a nylon lock nut. Like that, I can adjust the tension if I want to on this. So I'm going to screw this down, and I got one more bolt to go get. All right, so we welded the top nut, made sure everything was working. It wasn't too loose nor too tight. I don't know if you can see there. We welded that nut. That's the spacer. We welded the 2 back and that one as well. So everything's all welded up. Just use my little welder. It's a MIG, TIG and stick. Nice little unit. Works well. Anyways, now all we're going to do is tighten our nut here. I could not find another 1/4" bolt that length, so might end up using this bolt here, and I'll bend it in a U shape and weld it in place, and then we will be done. So again, this bolt here, all you do is put it in the vise, grab a piece that looks like maybe a piece of 1/2 inch round, stick it in here, and wrap it around, heat it up with the torch, and then just wrap your bolt around until you got the shape that you want. And again, you're going to be activating that with your thumb when you got that in your hand, right, to release. And then we'll have to drill our 2 little holes and find ourselves some springs. All right, so I threw some heat on that bolt. I changed my mind. That one bolt I had there was white metal, wouldn't have worked, so I just got a bigger bolt. This one is a 5/16 instead of 1/4 inch. Heated her up with the torch and bent her over. Again, this is nothing critical. You could try it before you weld it on. If it's not bent enough, put it back in the vise, bend it some more till it feels comfortable to you. Now we're going to let it cool down, and we're going to try it and see if it works. Tried it out, had to be bent a little more, stuck it out of the vise more, heated it up, and bent it. You pretty much want a good U going there so that it feels comfortable to the thumb. There you have it. Welded that bolt on after I bent it. Everything seems to work. Now the only thing left to do is drill a 1/8 hole here and here. Get yourself a spring assembly. You can see I had one on here. I lost it just recently. I'm gonna have to replace it. I don't have them here. Here they are side by side. Both the same. Nice little project. Now I paint them orange, and this one has to be repainted just because, again, if you drop it in the mud, drop it in trees, or drop it somewhere while you're setting, it's very easy to spot with this orange color on it. Now I like using these. They're safe. They lock in. They have new products out there nowadays. They got these out there, which they work good. They just take a little bit more time. These are a lot quicker to use. So again, I'm just going to have a second set, or I'll give this set to my dad or something like that. So nice little project you guys can do at home. Again, you don't need all the tools I got here. You can work with a hacksaw, hand drill, as long as you got the material. you'll be able to make the same thing. Now that 7/16 nut, if you can see down here, was quite not enough once it's all bolted together, but then you could just shim that with 1/4 inch washers. If you can see the 1/4 inch washers there I put in there. And yeah, that'll be it. So anyways, nice little project. Stay tuned. I'm gonna try to post more little projects I do at home and some of the adventures we're gonna have out on the trap line.